So Sean Kingston might have just suffered the most devastating downfall in hip-hop history. Sean went from collaborating with Justin Bieber and accumulating generational wealth through his iconic hit song Beautiful Girls to, well, straight up getting imprisoned. Now, I used to cover hip-hop news quite frequently on my channel, but recently I sort of pivoted away from that because the stories of these rappers catching cases and destroying their lives in idiotic ways get repetitive rather quickly. However, this Sean Kingston incident is absolute comedy, so I just have to talk about it. Sean Kingston orchestrated some of the most blatant high-risk scams I have ever seen for no real reason other than greed, all in cooperation with his own mother. He's now been found guilty of wire fraud and is expecting a sentence of up to 20 years in prison alongside his mom. This guy is literally named Kingston. He started his life on easy mode but decided to just throw it all away for no reason. Now real quick, if you don't know Sean Kingston, he's the guy that created the smash hit single Beautiful Girls. Now to put into context how big the song Beautiful Girls and its Jamaican flair really were back then, this track has over 1.4 billion views on YouTube. So realistically, this song alone should have really prevented him from ever running into financial troubles again in his life. Now Sean did gain a lot of notoriety through releasing his songs at the tail end of the 2000s. He essentially went from a complete nobody with a rough upbringing to an overnight pop sensation, but as you can probably tell, his success didn't really last. Ever since like 2011, his songs just did not perform well at all. He barely even released any music to begin with, and most people just forgot about his existence entirely. Now there are graceful ways to fall off. Some people realize that their time in the spotlight is over and they decide to step out of the public consciousness completely and instead pursue other ventures. Alternatively, some rappers do see their numbers declining, realize that they themselves aren't all that interesting, and just decide to help out other artists instead. Now Sean, on the other hand, simply could not accept that he had fallen off at all, and he was dead set on convincing the public that he's still out here living the high life. Now if we look at Sean Kingston's recent music, it hasn't performed absolutely awful. He does get a few million streams, so he could still live a somewhat comfortable life through creating music. But Sean clearly wasn't satisfied with just being moderately successful. He wanted to be seen as the best of the best, which unfortunately led to his predictable downfall. Now most of these rapper legal cases are rather cut and dry. Usually they caught a body or incriminated themselves in some other way related to murder or drugs or violence, and they then get thrown behind bars, unfortunately leading to their promising musical careers getting destroyed. However, Sean Kingston's case isn't anything like what you would usually expect from typical rapper trials, cause Sean Kingston didn't commit any violent crimes and he also didn't scam his fans, the two things most scumbag artists usually get accused of. Instead, Sean Kingston decided to scam other people in the celebrity industry. Now let me explain something to you. It's actually really easy to scam your fans on the internet without suffering repercussions. People like Jake Paul scammed their fans over 100 times and they faced absolutely zero legal consequences. So I do commend Sean Kingston for not defrauding his audience outright, but instead he decided to try and defraud other powerful people, which definitely didn't work out well for him as his home got raided and he's now been convicted of wire fraud and conspiracy to commit wire fraud together with his mom. So let's explain what he actually did to get himself in this situation, and let's try and figure out the ins and outs of this guy's fraudulent activities. Now unfortunately the trial wasn't publicly televised, therefore all of my sources are from news outlets covering the story firsthand and from the court documents. I'll have everything linked down below. Essentially in every photo you see of Sean Kingston, he's almost always wearing his custom chains or watches. This guy is really into jewelry, since owning lots of jewelry usually indicates that a person is wealthy, and Sean very obviously wants his supporters to believe that he's incredibly rich. That's the lifestyle he wants to showcase to his audience, even though his income doesn't necessarily grant him the ability to actually live like this anymore. So what did he do to combat this? Well, he just decided that he wasn't gonna pay his jewelers anymore. The court document reads, last week Sean Paul Anderson, aka Sean Kingston, and his mother Janice Turner were convicted by a federal jury of 1 count of conspiracy to commit wire fraud and 4 counts of wire fraud for their scheme to defraud luxury merchandise vendors of over $1 million in property. Now $1 million is an insane sum of money to be stealing, even though I do know some people are going to say, well, he stole from luxury jewelry dealers. A lot of those people sell overpriced items anyway, so they kind of had it coming, and I do understand that partially, but it's still stealing at the end of the day. Like, if you want to run these guys out of business, then you gotta just not buy their products instead of outright stealing them. Stealing valuables is objectively morally wrong. Also keep in mind, these $1 million of stolen property were were all found inside of Sean Kingston's home when the police raided the place. So there's also the possibility that he might have gathered even more items that he stores at a more secure location. Anyway, so this is how his scheme worked. From April 2023 to March 2024, Anderson reached out to his victims on a social media platform seeking to purchase valuable high-end merchandise. After negotiating a deal, Anderson would invite the sellers to one, if not more, of his high-end homes in the Broward County area. During these meetings, he utilized his celebrity status to lull the victims into a false sense of security by promising to place his victims and their products in social media promos, or by name-dropping high-profile celebrities as potential referral clients. When payment was due for the merchandise, Anderson or his mother would text the victims fake wire receipts that had been obtained by Turner as purported payment for the luxury merchandise, which included a bulletproof Escalade, watches, and a 232-inch LED TV. When the funds never cleared because the receipts were fake and no money had ever been transferred from legitimate accounts, the victims became suspicious, and despite numerous phone calls or text messages to Anderson and Turner, the victims were either never paid or only paid after filing a lawsuit. Now, this is true. I was able to find multiple old news articles talking about different instances of Sean Kingston getting sued. So he was definitely already known for conning people out of their jewelry through these fraudulent payments. Anyway, I firstly want to focus on some of these specific valuables, so let's look at the TV claim for example. So according to another source, a company called Verver Entertainment accused Sean of not paying for his 232-inch LED TV setup. Now, the way they claim that Sean conned them into them letting him walk away with their items without paying up front and instead agreeing on a later payment is quite interesting to me. They allege during the purchase, Kingston allegedly made numerous false representations to Verver, including that he had a quote current and ongoing working relationship unquote with singer Justin Bieber to persuade Verver to accept a lower down payment and credit toward the purchase. Kingston even promised the company that he would produce promotional videos for it with Bieber. The complaint continued, claiming that Kingston not only lied about his relationship with Bieber, but also had no intention to produce promotional videos or pay Verver in full. Now, they do keep throwing in the word allegedly in this article, even though this is all essentially confirmed now. Sean has been found guilty, so I could legally get away with just saying that he did do it. Anyway, now this paints a really pathetic picture. Apparently, Sean really felt like he desperately needed a brand new cutting-edge TV system in his luxury mansion, even though he definitely couldn't afford it. Now, here my general life advice would be that if you do not have enough money to buy something, you either shouldn't purchase it at all or wait until you gain the required amount of money and then buy it. But Sean took a different route here, as he straight up conned them into believing he'll get Justin Bieber to promote their company because they have a flourishing working relationship. Now, this is all sorts of pathetic because their song came out over 15 years ago and they haven't done anything together since. Justin Bieber probably forgot about Sean's existence entirely. I mean, the most recent picture of Sean and Justin I could find was taken over 11 years ago. Imagine telling people that you're in a working relationship with someone you haven't actually been associated with in over a decade. Like, that's insane levels of just being stuck in the past. I would be extremely embarrassed if I had to pretend to be the person I was 11 years ago just to be able to afford something. Like, surely at that point it should dawn on you that what you're doing is pathetic. Now, regarding all the jewelry, Sean Kingston appears to have a pattern of behavior here, as he previously got sued for a combined sum of over $600,000 after failing to pay for his custom jewelry. And I just gotta point out that I think customizing your jewelry has to be one of the most idiotic moves you can pull as a rapper low on cash. Because if you buy an extremely expensive watch, you can at the very least resell it for pretty decent value when you need to. But no one is gonna buy a chain with your specific name on it. Customization massively tanks the value of your jewelry. You're essentially asking to go bankrupt at that point. Now, all of this is pretty hilarious, but the real reason I felt like this story was worth covering really boils down to Sean's mother's involvement. Cause Sean Kingston hasn't been defrauding people all on his own. Instead, he organized his sleazy schemes with his own mother. Now, I just want everyone to understand this. Sean Kingston has multiple tracks with over 8 billion streams worldwide. I don't care how much money his record label is taking. By all accounts, this guy should have enough funds to live a comfortable life without ever having to work again. But instead, he's engaging in criminal activities with his own mother. Sean Kingston is partaking in organized crime with his mom. I have never seen a more insane fall off ever in my entire life. But before we dive into this further, I do want to point out that the absolute majority of you watching aren't actually subbed to the channel, so if you could do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, that would absolutely mean the world to me. Anyway, back to the video. Now, this is how his mother's involvement is described. According to NBC Miami, when she took to the stand on day 4 of the trial, she admitted to sending fake wires from her bank account to pay people, but claimed that it was all an attempt to protect Sean from being taken advantage of. Turner, that's the name of Sean's mother, said she handles all of her son's business transactions and admitted to sending fake bank wires because he had been taken advantage of before. So you mean to tell me that you feel like your son has been taken advantage of before, therefore it's okay for you to write fraudulent checks to people and send fake wires? That is completely nonsensical logic. Now, regarding their operation, it seems like Sean Kingston did the talking. He appears to have directly interacted with the jewelers, salesmen, etc. and worked out some sort of payment deal with them. And then his mother Turner took care of falsifying checks and handling the actual fraudulent payment methods. Now, I really wish that they filmed this trial, because I would have absolutely loved to see Sean's mother in person just talk her way into prison on the stand. I mean, surely the courtroom must have burst out laughing when she explained that she wrote fraudulent checks to people to protect her son from being taken advantage of. If anything, that puts a target on his back. You're arguably putting him in danger, because some of these people might want to go after Sean physically as revenge for the scam. Again, what really baffles me here is that they did all of this scamming just to be able to afford even more luxury items when they were already living in such a massive mansion to begin with. These two could have just been like, you know what, maybe we don't need $1 million worth of jewelry and lived a peaceful life, but instead they've now destroyed their entire existence over what I can only describe as pure greed. Now, what I found really interesting here is that Sean not only took part in organized crime with his mom, but during that trial he apparently even tried to throw her under the bus, which is just all kinds of crazy, because Sean's defense team tried to argue that he's just this bumbling childlike buffoon who had absolutely no knowledge of any fraud, and that it was his mom who really operated his criminal enterprise. Kingston's attorney attempted to separate his client's public image from his personal finances, describing him as a soft guy who grew up poor when he rose to fame overnight, with no idea how to run a business and no idea how much money is in his bank account. I don't believe that for a second, by the way. Kingston's defense team attempted to argue that he was a child and was seemingly unaware of the fraudulent activities as he didn't understand finances. At the same time, they described Turner as a fixer and the nerve center of the criminal enterprise. So Sean's lawyers are putting all of the blame on his mother entirely, and again, I wish this trial was televised. I know there's like an argument to be made that televised trials are like over dramatized and they divide people even further, but I honestly don't even care. Like, this would have just been entertaining to me. Imagine watching Sean Kingston's lawyer argue that his mom is spearheading criminal operations without his knowledge, and then seeing his mom's reaction. Like, that would have honestly been priceless. Now, in my personal opinion, I don't believe that the over 30-year-old man Sean Kingston is just this incompetent childlike being who doesn't even check his own bank account. Instead, I think these two just did everything together. Not only were they entirely aware of what they were doing, but they also cooperated extremely closely. The text messages seem to downright confirm this, as the prosecutors managed to obtain a key piece of evidence showing Sean talking to his mother and telling her, "I told you to make a fake receipt, so it looks like the transfer will be there in a couple of days." So yeah, that does make it seem like Sean was fully aware of what was going on here, and the jury thought so as well, as they found Sean and his mother guilty on all charges. Now, what does this mean for Sean and his mom Taylor exactly? Well, they both will receive their sentences on July 10th, and for each charge they could serve up to 20 years in prison. In Sean's case, he was found guilty of all 5 charges, while his mother got convicted of 8 charges. Now, this does mean Sean could get a sentence of up to 100 years in prison, but I do believe that since this is his first real offense and it's a financial crime, that he will most likely get off with either very little prison time or just being put on probation and getting ordered to pay everyone their money back. Now, with his mother, on the other hand, I do believe she will probably be in prison for quite some time, since she's already a convicted felon, and while Sean was obviously aware of everything going on, she does seem like more of the ringleader here. So her sentence will most likely be a lot harsher than Sean's, which is another reason reason why I think it's just such a shockingly awful act of this guy to just throw his own mom under the bus during the trial. But hey, I guess some celebrities are just terrible people in real life, and I do wonder if Sean realizes that there won't be any beautiful girls waiting for him in prison. Now this story really just made me feel horrible, because they really engaged in this behavior for no real reason. They didn't need all this jewelry or these luxury TV systems. They were already living a pretty comfortable life to begin with, so they very easily could have just not done this at all. Like, these two destroyed their lives for no actual reason. Anyway, I really enjoyed covering this story, mainly because the whole mom aspect is just so crazy to me. I hope you also enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to drop a like, write your opinion on Sean Kingston and his crazy legal troubles down below, subscribe if you haven't already, follow me on Twitter, and I will see you in the next one.